Welcome back to the program. If you're just joining us, this is The Press coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. And now we've been joined by Dr. Mefor, and together we shall be taking a look at the headlines we read out to you earlier. And this is also a reminder that our phone lines are open for you to call and join the conversation. Hi, Dr. Law. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me on the program this morning.
Thank you.
It's always amazing to have you because we know that we are in for a very deep conversation.
Oh, really?
Okay, let's get into the business of the day.
Yeah.
This headline from the Nigerian Tribune this morning, according to Atiku, it says February 25 pool rape of democracy. We already know that he is going to challenge that in court. But you were here on the day of the election of February 25th.
Yeah.
What was your expectation and the results? Did that match up to your expectation, or do you what do you think about the outcome of the February 25th presidential polls?
I think I've never felt disappointed.
Okay.
In all my life. Yeah, because the two men of the moment, as far as I am concerned, should be President Muhammadu Buhari and the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. Both men, for the past 10 months and perhaps years, have been assuring Nigerians that there will be free, fair, credible election. And Professor Mahmoud, particularly, was part of the vanguard that campaigned for electronic component to be inserted in the new Electoral Act. Civil society organizations drove the process. Many of us canvassed for it. Why? Because that would ensure what you call real time. You see, first and foremost, Nigerians need to understand one thing. Rigging a Nigerian election happens not at the polling units as such. It is the falsification of figures that occur after the announcement of results at the polling units, between the polling units and the first collation level, which is the word collation. And of course, upward to local government collation, to state collation, up to national collation. But most essentially should be what happens at the World Coalition Center. Now, the new Electoral Act was conceived, crafted to ensure that falsification of figures, do not occur in this present election that we are considering at the moment.
Okay.
How, does the Electoral Act ensure that? Permit me to read out something. You know why I would prefer to read? I would prefer to read so that viewers would not think that this is my opinion.
Okay.
The Electoral Act, Section 64, subsection 4, is the clear provision. And it says, Section 64, subsection 4 says, a collation officer or returning officer at the election shall collate and announce the result of an election, subject to his or her verification and confirmation that the number of accredited voters stated on the collated result is correct and consistent with the number of accredited voters recorded and transmitted directly from the polling units, and that the votes stated on the collated result are correct and consistent with the votes or results recorded and transmitted directly from the polling units. Let me add this also. The same Electoral Act further provided what should happen when there is disparity between the results, contained in the BVAS and on the physical result sheet. It says, where a smart card reader or any other technological device fails to function in any unit and a fresh card reader or technological device is not brought, the election in that unit shall be cancelled and another election shall be held within 24 hours. I rest it here. Now, You see, Nigerians need to understand what this whole thing is all about. You see, when the law expressly provides a procedure and does not give room for discretion, it becomes mandatory and obligatory for the operator of such law to carry out as stipulated. This is not what INEC did, and I'll prove to you. You see, it says you shall declare result subject to. That means you can't declare unless you verify and confirm
from the one collation,
from the one transmitted from the polling units electronically. You see, let me define transmission here. Transmission is moving an item from one point to another, right?
Yes.
Electronic transmission is moving an item from one point to another through an electronic means. It's not physical delivery of result.
So
you get this point. You know, this point is very fundamental, so that Nigerians can understand why the presidential election of Nigeria was conducted outside the Electoral Act 2022 and therefore voided.
Yes.
As an exercise. In my own estimation, you know, when you are told, you know, if the act wanted INEC to exercise a measure of discretion, do you know the word? You know, the act would have said the collation officer may confirm. It didn't use the word may. May is the word that brings in discretion. But once you hear subject to, another word for it is must or shall. It is mandatory and obligatory, and therefore cannot be circumvented by the operator of the extant law.
Yes. Now,
when Professor Mahmood declared the presidential result, did you see him make any reference to any electronically transmitted result? No. Nothing, not even verbal acclamation.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you short there. Okay, on the Nation this morning, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Nii Akintola, drew our attention to Section 60, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act. And it says that is where that is the part that deals with the transmission of result. And I'm going to read that Section 60 of the Electoral Act. I'm going to start with subsection 1. It said the presiding officer shall, after counting the vote at the polling unit, enter the votes scored by each candidate in a form.
Correct.
The form shall be signed and stamped by the presiding officer and countersigned by the candidate's agent. Let me go further and read subsection 3. The presiding officer shall give the polling agent and the police officer, where available, a copy of the completed form after it has been duly signed as provided under subsection 2. The presiding officer shall count and announce the result at the polling unit. Because he made mention, and he also said, there is no mandatory provision regarding the transmission of results. That
is, you know, but then I just read out section 64. No, wait a minute. You read 60?
Yes.
What? But then I read, it's not that it is my opinion. That is why I pleaded your indulgence to permit me to read directly, so that nobody would say that this is Dr. Mefor's opinion, it's not mine. The subsection 64, subsection 4 says, subject to, that you shall collect, subject to confirmation. That is mandatory. So what is the learner talking about? Why should he read section 60 in absence, or without reading it in conjunction with section 64, particularly subsection 4 that I just read out? Why do you think the Electoral Act says that, look, where BVAS cannot do this, you repeat the election? It's mandatory. Why? Real time. You see, if you go on ahead and declare a result without ensuring the two things provided for by the BVAS, what you have committed is not only criminal, illegal, it's actually wicked. You see, I told you, I was part of the people that struggled for this, right? Yeah. And we know what we got the Senate, the NAS generally to do, is to ensure real time. Because if you don't ensure real time, electoral officers are often bribed and they falsify figures. Go to the INEC viewing portal and see many mutilated figures.
True.
It's there. That's precisely what the Electoral Act is trying to prevent. So that the will and wish of Nigerians would prevail for once. This is exactly what has been set aside by INEC. And some lawyers are trying to find ways to justify the act. And I now ask, the only question that I would pose to such a women silk, senior advocate of Nigeria, people who should be in the vanguard of contesting the illegality committed by INEC, and the one saying it is not mandatory. What does the word subject to mean in law? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Is it discretionary? Why didn't the law say may? Why is it saying subject to? I am not a lawyer, but law is also commonsensical. When you remove all these irrelevancies and the consequentialities that you call technicalities, the word subject to means that you can't do B unless A exists. It's simple. In what you call scientific logic, there is what you call conjuncture and disjuncture. That is, if this, then this. Do you understand that? What that means is that
if there's no
if there is no A, B cannot exist. It's already, you see, the spirit of the law contemplates, and rightly so, but the result is likely to be manipulated, because that is our experience, that's our history.
True.
And it now says, now BVAS, you have this, you are now up against BVAS. BVAS will deal with accreditation. That is why incidence form was abolished by the Electoral Act 2022. That abolition means that only those accredited by BVAS will vote. And that's exactly what happened.
Yes.
Those who were accredited by BVAS. And to ensure that this actually happened, INEC migrated from smart card reader that was a mono modal to bimodal. Mono only thumbprint operated under the regime of the smart card reader, but under the bimodal accreditation machine, BVAS, facial recognition was brought into it. That's what makes it bimodal too. So if the thumbprint fails, your face, unless burnt or something, may not be recognized.
Yes.
But we don't have such case. Now, it will now show that these are the number of people accredited in this polling unit. That is one thing the collation officer will look out for. Because in the form you are referring to, from EC8A and B, the form will contain the number of accredited voters. You will write it physically. The collation officer will look at what you have written and cross-check, compare it with what the BVAS captured. Simple. Then the number of votes cast will also be captured by BVAS. And the Electoral Act says that the collation officer must compare both. BVAS was brought in. Nigeria spent over 350 billion to ensure that this is what obtained in this election. Yeah. Now, INEC threw all this away and now resorted to manual accreditation. Yes, you will have to use a manual process to write in. But the electronic component is the comparison. That comparison is not for fun. Because that's why I read the second arm of the Electoral Act that says that where accreditation cannot be done by BVAS, you have to bring another BVAS. Where another BVAS cannot be brought, you reschedule the election. So where is all this argument coming from? You reschedule the election. Why didn't the Electoral Act say where bimodal a method fails, where BVAS fails, that you may resort to manual process. The current Electoral Act does not want manual process to prevail. The current process, is made subject to the electronic backbone and backup. So when, at all the levels of commission, this reference was not made, even from the ward level. Ward collation ought not to take place without uploading, first and foremost, the polling unit results. The same thing at local government, the same thing at state level, the same thing at what happened at International Conference Center. This is the express provision of the law. I think in Latin, it goes like this. It says something like est expressio uris, est expressio uteris. That the express mention of one thing is an express exclusion of another.
Okay.
You don't have any powers to circumvent a law. Once you do that, you have set aside the law.
Sure.
What you have done is therefore outside the law. It's simple. Because, and that's just the only thing available, and that must be confirmed by the court. If the judiciary we have today has any honor left.
Yeah. Because
that's another thing. If they have any honor left, this is the time for them to come to the rescue of the country.
Okay.
So that the system is not convulsed to the point of rupture.
Okay, we also have the gubernatorial elections coming up in a week's time. But you made mention on the 25th of February that the president was your hero in all of this.
Yes.
Because I will also agree that he at some point tried to put in measures in place to make sure that this works out fine. But at the end of the day, I don't think at this point we would say it did.
Well,
would you still say at this point that he is still your hero? And is there a way of him redeeming this situation?
You see, Nigeria is operating presidential democracy, and in it is embedded what we call the quintessence of the principle of separation of powers.
Yes.
The president is the head of the executive arm of government, and yes, INEC as an agency is an executive agency. Even though under the law is supposed to operate as an independent body, right?
Yeah.
And the measures are actually taken by the INEC Act to secure its independence. For example, the INEC Act as amended has granted financial autonomy to the agency. In other words, INEC doesn't have to be running to the president cap in hand and then incur what you call Piper syndrome.
Okay.
This is not happening now. And there was no point in time that Professor Yakubu told us that he was denied any funding. Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, that the agency under him is enjoying that financial autonomy. I also recall that a few days to the election, this question came up, and he said that look, that the Naira redesign policy and the Naira crisis it precipitated, it's not that affected INEC, that he had been able to secure the money he needed. These were the words of Professor Yako. So I believe that the president has done what he should. So if the president reached out through the back to make some suggestive statements that INEC should bend the rules to favor his party, we can't see the president doing that openly, and therefore looking in that direction is pure speculation, and I don't believe in speculation. And again, I even tell you, even if the president wanted to prevail on Yakubu and his commission to mess up this process in order to achieve a predetermined outcome, I still believe that the blame goes to Professor Yakubu, because you enjoy autonomy. In other words, both your term of appointment, is fairly guaranteed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And you have financial autonomy. Why do you have to listen to the president? Men of honor in that position do not have to listen to anybody. Let me give you an example with a football match. Most referees you see were once players.
True.
Do you understand that? But now they know that they are not players here now. They are umpires. A referee is an umpire. That is the job of Professor Mahmoud, an umpire, and nobody can push you around. And at this moment, if he had done the right thing, Nigerians would back him. You see, nobody is saying whether the production of Asiwaju as the president-elect of Nigeria is right or wrong. No, we're talking about the process. My position is that even if it is Obi or Atiku, it should be rejected.
Okay.
Do you get my point? None of them should be allowed to become the president of Nigeria through this kind of process. It's wrong because it's not the product of the law. These are some of the things that Nigerians need to understand. So it has nothing to do with Tinubu. Even Tinubu himself should be worried about what is going on at the moment. He should ask himself, Tinubu should ask himself, how come there is no jubilation even in Lagos where he won? When Buhari won in 2015, the celebration went on for a week. Some people even died celebrating in joy.
And some people traveled long distances.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
Some had to travel from Lagos, from Kaduna to Abuja just to symbolically mark the emergence of Mega Scare, President Muhammad Buhari as the president-elect of Nigeria. But why is that not happening now? It's because people see the process as tainted, as manipulated. So, you know, I recall I was SA to His Excellency Senator Ken Namani when he was Senate President. He was saying one thing consistently: procedure, due process. Due process. He said, follow due process, whatever is the outcome. So be it. And you saw the way he handled the issue of third term. Say, look, all of you, every senator will answer his father's name. Okay. Get up and say whether you agree with this bill or not. Everybody spoke, and at the end of the day, he ruled that the bill was dead. And people could see the procedure. Do you understand? Yeah. So if INEC did not shut down their portal, because now they say that the portal was overloaded. They say it's a lie. I tell you why I say it's a lie. It wasn't overloaded. Remember that INEC had an opportunity to do what they call mock accreditation, to verify the authenticity of BVAS, right? That was the opportunity to test the load carry capacity of their IREV. And they did. They did. Because what Festus Okoye now told us was that, you see, the IREV and all that, you worked during the off-season election. No, your work wasn't an off-season.
Yes.
Your work wasn't an off-season. It was national. And again, the results did not arrive at the same time. Do you get the point?
True.
But they shut down. Ask yourself again, how come the results of House of Reps, the Senate, conducted in the same polling units at the same time?
Were available.
Only the presidential results were not available. You know, you can see. And why did it take INEC 12 hours to issue a press statement? It was a state of emergency. Assuming it was true, even without considering, the natural response of Professor Mahmoud and INEC would be to raise an alarm. Call stakeholders, political parties will gather. There are experts all over Nigeria, and see if they can come to the rescue of INEC.
Yeah.
And how come that as we speak now, we have 150-something thousand polling unit results on IREV? So what magic happened? And at what point? My last line on this is that INEC has to be subjected to a forensic investigation, because I believe there has been a criminal breach of trust.
All right. Okay. Now let's move into the aftermath of the elections. The presidential candidate, or the president-elect, has been announced. Okay, we'll have a caller. Let's take this call before we continue our conversation. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press. Hello, good morning. Good morning, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you. Please go ahead and make your contributions.
How are you?
Very well, good morning.
Hello? Morning. Hello?
Good morning, Elder Zion. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Hello, good morning. Good morning, Elder Zion. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today? Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Fine. Please, I want to congratulate you on the forthcoming congratulation. You see, it's what we to outside. If you can check where I've been talking about
Okay, I think we lost that call. Please do call us back, and when you do, please turn down the volume of your TV set so that we can hear you correctly. And if you are unable to call us, please send us a text message and I'll be sure to take it. Okay, now let's go back to the aftermath of the elections.
Yeah.
The president-elect has been announced, and now most of the presidential candidates that are willing want to go to court. Now we have the presidential candidate of the PDP and Labour Party heading to court over this matter. How do you foresee this is going to turn out? And with all of the evidence, like Peter Obi has said that he has his evidence that he won the mandate, but some people are of the opinion that it is not possible for him to win the election, or for him to have won the election, taking into consideration the national spread and all of that. So what are your thoughts on this, and how do you foresee this particular issue is going to turn out in court?
Well, you see, if anybody has won anything in this election, it is Peter Obi. Yeah, because he has been able to emerge from nowhere, break into the center of the arena, altered the political landscape of the southeast completely, and made incursions into the southwest. He won Lagos. He won Plateau.
That was a big move.
He won so many places, up to, I think he even won Taraba. So if you look at all this, that is spread. Do you understand that? That is spread, and unexpected one at that. You don't call any presidential candidate a front runner unless the person enjoys genuine chances of winning the election. There was no poll that ignored the P2B. In fact, most of the polls even predicted his victory.
Yeah.
So people saying that it wasn't possible for you to win, I don't think those people are being realistic. And even if that is the truth, why don't you allow the process to prove Obi and his obedience movement right or wrong? That is part of why I am angry. Do you understand what I'm saying? I, for one, I was one of the people that said, look, Obi is an excellent candidate, but standing on a very flimsy platform, upon which it is very difficult, if not impossible, to erect a presidential campaign and victory. Right?
Yes.
Do you understand that? That was my position. Many believe that I should even be an obedient, given my relationship with Obi and my campaign for Nigeria president of Igbo extraction, which they believe Obi symbolizes. So that position that Obi couldn't have won was shared by many, but now it's no longer important. What is important is that the system was not allowed to prove Obi wrong. Do you get the point? Because if you had transmitted all the results from polling units, and at the end of the day, Obi didn't win, himself would see that he didn't win. But now, we saw cases of even institutional collusion. In Lagos, in Edo, in Rivers, in Katsina, in Kano, in so many other places, we had institutional collusion. Let me tell you what I mean by that.
Okay.
You see, election security is about 3 to 4 concentric seconds. The innermost ring contains the police that bear no arms. They may carry batons, but with communication gadgets. The second ring contains the police bearing arms, even the Mefor. And then there is outermost ring, which is the Nigerian military, the soldiers, battle ready, waiting to be, to be brought in where there is problem. Yet we saw in Lagos thugs breaking into voting arena,
yes,
destroying polling materials, including polling boxes, ballot papers, torn and burnt and dumped into the gutters. In the full glare of the Nigerian police. Why then did the nation mobilize over 400,000 police officers and men, excluding the number of soldiers, civil defense, and other security apparatchik? They were all there, mobilized, probably more than 500,000 of them. So what did they do? What exactly was the job they did when such a thing was going on? Now, that is vote suppression. Because, such things happen where they believe a certain candidate was likely to win. And Nigerian security agents mobilized and paid with the taxpayers' money, especially the border security agency, the Nigeria police. They were there and watched such things happen. And as of now, there is no consequence. I had expected, for example, by now, to send a very strong signal to the police and others that will police the March 11 gubernatorial election. Send the signal to them. By now, I had expected that the IGO police would have ordered, room trial for some of the people who were supposed to provide security in such places and brazenly failed to do so. You didn't do that.
Yeah.
And there is no consequence. So I have no faith that there will be no repeat of the same thing in March. Do you understand that? March 11 does not promise to be any different. Look at what happened in Rivers. Direct involvement of the governor, Governor Wike, see him paging all over the place.
Yeah.
Is Wike supposed to leave his ward or even his polling unit during the election? It was all over Rivers. Is that the electoral law? But it was left. That means some people are above the law. That's what I mean by institutional collusion. You now allow some people to do what they can to win certain places.
Yes.
Do you understand that? I was listening to an analysis offered by somebody from the presidential campaign of Atiku, pointing out the kind of rigging that happened in Lagos. How a certain political parties votes were suppressed from 900,000 to 500,000. Do you know what is 400,000 votes in an election that was won by just 2 million?
Yes.
So if you repeated that in a number of states, you have ensured that the person would not win. So even if you see that, even if the polling unit results would show that indeed you won only this number of votes, because your votes were destroyed even physically and nobody did anything.
Okay.
No, the last line, the last one you can run to other things. What I had expected is outright cancellation of results in all those places.
Okay, we'll still come back to that. Let's take a quick call break. Let's take calls for now, and we'll continue our conversation. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you too.
I'm Monday. I'm coming from Enugu.
Thank you, Monday, for joining us on the program. Please go ahead and make your contributions.
Okay. What happened to this election is unfair. We are not happy at all. Because we are in Nigeria. Look at what I make all of everybody. I make chairman. We have a very big. We have a very big high hope.
True.
And the approach they have made to Nigeria. Like in November, we had the INEC chairman told us that this election will be transmitted. And look at, all of us see what happened. And this later, the INEC chairman didn't follow his word. Tell me which country such thing can be happening.
All right.
And the number one man, the president of the country, didn't even make any comment, say anything about it. It's unfortunate.
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions.
All
right. Thank you.
You know, what he said, what the caller said, right, is that INEC chairman did not keep his words. I don't like that. What Nigerians are saying, the man keeping his words. No, that's not the issue here. Look, we are not looking at his promise. We are looking at the law.
The Electoral Act.
Nigerians must go to the law. They should forget about the man's promise. Look, you see, a man of honor will keep his words.
Sure.
But being a professor may not make you a man of honor. And that is why you have laws. The law is taking into account that a professor may not be a man of honor. And now the law comes in to ensure that even if you are a dishonorable person, that you must follow this process. And if you follow this process, here is where you will arrive. Professor Mahmoud refused to follow the law. That is what, not keeping his promise. He shouldn't, Nigerians must stop talking about the word keeping his promise. The issue is that he did not follow the law. That is what is important here.
So let it not seem like he made a promise.
He made a promise. We don't need his promise.
Okay, let's take more calls. We'll continue our conversation. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press. Hello, good morning. Okay.
Also, you hold him accountable based on the law. And that is what the courts will consider, not his promise. Any promise you made outside the law cannot be kept.
Okay.
He made a promise in line with the law. He didn't keep it. Forget about the promise. That is a moral question. What should come under strict interrogation is the stipulation of the law and determining just one thing. Did he have any discretion to abandon electronically transmitted results? It's very simple.
Okay.
If the law says that he had a discretion so he could abandon it, then
okay, let's take more calls and continue our conversation. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press. Yes, good morning. Hello, good morning. We can hear you. Please go ahead. Okay. Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the press.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Please turn down the volume of your TV.
Yeah, my observance on this election of 18 is that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, because the INEC chairman, the question on that is that who appointed the INEC chairman and all the electoral whatever. All of them was appointed by the presidency. And so what do you expect them to do? Because if you watch during the canvassing, they are reading or whatever they are doing, you can see that somebody is calling another number, and in the screen, there's another number there. They're not asking, go inside and do who that is inside the room to know whether if what that man has come out and tell us whether it is true or false.
Yeah.
So, to me, I feel that whatever Nigerians are doing at this time, they are just telling us that this is not one Nigeria, and there are some cabals that host Nigeria.
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press. Good morning. Please go ahead and make your contributions.
Well,
Thank you for joining us on the program.
My name is Abba Ali Mongoro.
Good morning, Mr. Abba.
I'm just wondering why people argue so much on this election. There can be 3 presidents at a time. And you can't imagine absolute efficiency of the BVAS and all the machines that they were to use. So what is most important is peace in this country.
Okay.
Since the election conducted and declared war, I see no reason why people can't just wait for the next election. It's better for all of us. Let us have peace. Let us, have peace, and then we go abiding so that we don't foment things.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Hello. Good morning. Please. Hello.
Hello.
Please turn down the volume of your TV set. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, please turn down the volume of your TV set and go ahead and make your contributions.
It's all right. Thank you so much. I honestly love KAFTAN television. They are really giving us what we want to hear. On a very serious note, my anger here is that all these people that are perpetrating these electoral malpractices are all professors. And look at the way they are crying in the country. If they catch up a student malpracticing, indulging in malpractice, they will go for the student's head. In this case now, when they are speaking to a serious malpractice against the whole nation, professors, look at them, professors. They are now enthroning bad government. Tomorrow now they will catch up a student who indulges, and they will go for the person's head. What are we talking about? And this country's constitution has given the president much power to appoint even the Supreme Court judge and everything. This should be done accordingly as is done in other countries.
Okay.
And how I wish these so-called professors should stop chastising students that are involved with, because they have committed atrocity against the people, against the whole nation by giving us wrong data and wrong leadership enthronement.
Yeah.
We're not happy. And when they will hit the quality.
Oh, so sorry. I think we lost that call.
Yeah, the legacy that President Muhammadu Buhari promised Nigerians to bequeath us a free, fair, credible election and electoral process has been completely damaged and destroyed. And I believe that legacy has just evaporated. And President Muhammadu Buhari ought to be worried about this and ensure that corrections are made. How can he do that? By allowing the judiciary to do its work.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? Nigerians don't have, yesterday they were asking Atiku, supposing you go to court and lose at the Supreme Court, what will you do? So I will appeal to God. That's a statesman, right?
Yeah.
I will appeal to God. That was where I was going to. So it is important, like I said, it's not even the outcome as the president-elect. One issue needs to be determined. Can there be valid declaration of result without confirmation and authentication with electronically transmitted copy? Where this is not done, can we say that the outcome of that election is sacrosanct and therefore acceptable? That is just what is before the judiciary.
Okay.
Now, if they believe that subject to means shall and must and therefore obligatory, it is up to them to do either two things. One is to ask that you go back to the polling unit level, right? Go and upload and declare. Do you understand that? Again, that is now very, very contentious.
Yes.
Because, like I told you, I was doing some random check on the IREV. So many mutilated results. And you see, that is exactly what is bringing my fear. That what you are seeing, there's an evidence of manipulation.
It has lost its credibility.
Yes, that what happened at the polling unit, you know, is no longer standing as the fidelity has been compromised.
Yeah.
And you see, you can go on and say, let us use those results as they are, and now compare what was manually brought and what was electronically uploaded.
Yes.
Can you swear to Nigerians that BVAS have not been reconfigured to capture the new figures? Do you see where we are now?
Yes.
It's a total mess that Professor Yakub and his commission have brought upon Nigerians, and this very serious, crucial moment and the presidential election. Right. Because and if it is proved again that this is that the fidelity of the polling unit results are now compromised, once you get to that level, you are having one thing staring you in the face, a repeat of the presidential election. All
right. I think with that we'll have to draw the curtain, and I still hope that people still just use the last drop of hope that they have in them to come out on the 11th of March to still exercise their franchise as Nigerians. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
The pleasure is mine. Nigerians, please vote. Do not be dismayed. Do not be dismayed.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you later today on other programs we have on KAFTAN TV. My name is Sandra, and bye for now.